All right, let's just jump right into this explainer. Look, if you're a gamer, you know the drill. Some bosses are specifically designed to just absolutely push you to your mechanical limits. But what if I told you that some of the most terrifying foes in gaming history are secretly just one weird trick away from becoming a total speed bump? Seriously, today we're going to count down a top 10 list of how a little lateral thinking and some incredibly simple tricks can completely dismantle those seemingly impossible video game challenges.
Because, we've all been there, right? You're just glaring at your screen, you've faced that one boss that literally makes you want to chuck your controller at the wall, and you just feel like you've hit a total brick wall. But, as this explainer is going to show, sometimes you don't actually need better reflexes or a higher level. Sometimes you just need a complete change in perspective to turn a grueling battle into a total victory lap.
So, kicking off our countdown at number 10, we've got an absolute classic from the PS2 era. The End from Metal Gear Solid 3: Snake Eater.
Now, normally, you'd spend hours painstakingly hunting this elderly sniper through some incredibly dense jungle terrain. It's intense. But here is one of the most creative workarounds ever devised. You can literally just save your game, wait about a week in real-world time, and then reload. Because the boss is so incredibly old, he just dies of old age while you are away. It completely bypasses the fight and perfectly matches that unique, kind of wacky sense of humor that Konami is so well known for.
Moving on to number 9, we are shifting over to the punishing world of Demon Souls to face the terrifying Dragon God.
So, this giant monster looks like it could crush you instantly, and it will. If you charge in swinging your sword, you are going to lose. The trick here is realizing this isn't a traditional fight at all. You gotta treat it like a stealth puzzle. Just hide behind the pillars, carefully avoid his detection, and systematically activate the giant ballistas around the arena. You're basically letting the environment do all the heavy lifting. Stick to the shadows, and honestly, victory is a total breeze.
Coming in at number 8 is one of the most memorable, mind-bending moments in all of gaming history, Psycho Mantis from the original Metal Gear Solid. This boss famously reads your memory card and anticipates your every single move, making him ridiculously tough to hit. Most players struggle immensely here, but the solution? It's surprisingly literal. Just move your controller from port 1 to port 2. Yep, that's it. By executing this brilliant little hardware hack, the supposedly mind-reading psychic completely loses his ability to track your inputs. His advantage is just gone. It's an iconic, fourth-wall breaking trick that turns a super frustrating fight into a piece of cake.
All right, number 7 brings us to the super stylish world of Persona 5, where we're facing off against an incredibly intimidating optional super boss known as the Reaper. Normally, the Reaper is an absolute nightmare, capable of effortlessly wiping out even high-level parties. But this encounter is all about using the in-game calendar to your advantage. During specific scheduled weather conditions known as flu season, this terrifying boss can actually spawn with debilitating status effects. You literally just let the common cold reduce one of the game's most feared enemies into an incredibly easy target. How great is that?
Halfway through our list, at number 6, we have an iconic encounter from the Nintendo 64 classic, The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, the final showdown with Ganon. This is a perfect example of how sometimes the most unassuming item in your inventory is actually your best weapon. Understandably, most players focus entirely on using the legendary Master's Sword for this final clash. But veteran players know a hilarious secret: a humble, empty glass bottle. Yeah, the exact same one you use to catch bugs can make the fight dramatically easier. Reflecting Ganon's energy attacks back at him with the bottle actually gives you a much larger timing window than the sword does. Whoever thought an empty piece of glassware could rival a legendary magical weapon?
Hitting number 5, we have a boss that generates just a massive amount of frustration for Dark Souls players, the dreaded Bed of Chaos.
Okay, to save your sanity here, you need a complete mindset shift. Step 1, and this is the hardest part to accept, totally ignore dealing damage. You have to stop treating this like a normal boss battle and focus purely on positioning and navigation. You destroy the 2 side nodes, memorize where the floors collapse, and sprint straight to the center. The moment you change your mindset from combat to obstacle course, this agonizing encounter actually becomes pretty manageable.
Down to number 4. We're throwing it way back to the incredibly punishing NES era to stand face-to-face with the seemingly unbeatable Mike Tyson from Mike Tyson's Punch-Out!
His punches knock you out almost instantly, and honestly, it feels impossible at first glance. But you have to break down the illusion of his speed. Instead of relying on raw, frantic reflexes, you gotta rely on observation.
Every single one of Tyson's devastating attacks is telegraphed. Watch for those tiny movements, look for the visual flashes, and just memorize the rhythm. Once you pick up on those cues, you transform the heavyweight champ into a demanding, but totally predictable pattern recognition test.
Breaking into the top 3, we've got another notorious NES terror that traumatized a whole generation of gamers, the Yellow Devil from Capcom's Mega Man.
Now, you might think the key to surviving this guy is having pixel-perfect reflexes to dodge all those flying pieces. Nope, the actual weakness is so much simpler, the Elec Beam. Exploiting this specific elemental weakness is just devastating. A few well-placed shots absolutely melt the boss's health bar. It takes a battle that is famously difficult and turns it into one of the absolute shortest encounters in the entire game. If you come prepared, you'll seriously wonder what all the fuss was about.
Before we hit the top 2, let's run through a quick bonus stage because there are just so many great examples of this. Taking down Senator Armstrong in Metal Gear Rising, it's not about non-stop attacking, it's simply about mastering parries to shut down his offense. For Elden Ring newcomers hitting a wall with Margit, grabbing Margit's shackle and using Spirit Summons dramatically drops the difficulty. Beating Bowser in Super Mario 64 is purely about positioning and a couple of accurate throws. And wildly enough, for the terrifying Ruby weapon in Final Fantasy VII, the trick is to intentionally start the battle with fallen party members just to bypass his most dangerous opening attacks.
All right, entering the final stretch at number 2. We have the controller-breaking duo responsible for shattered gamer confidence worldwide, Ornstein and Smog from Dark Souls.
Look, trying to fight 2 highly aggressive targets at once is a trap, and it usually results in getting completely crushed. The absolute simplest strategy? Use the architecture. The arena's pillars constantly separate the 2 bosses. I know it sounds incredibly obvious, but realizing how powerful the environment is for splitting their aggression allows you to focus on just one target at a time. It seriously makes managing these 2 infinitely easier. And here we are, taking the absolute number 1 spot on our list, the infamous secret boss that will delete your health bar in seconds, Sephiroth from Kingdom Hearts on the PS2.
So many players attempt to aggressively overpower him and just get totally destroyed. The simple trick here? Changing your entire loadout and your mindset. Equip abilities like Second Chance and Leaf Bracer, and absolutely hoard your magic points strictly for healing. You must prioritize survival over aggressive attacks. And once survival becomes your only priority, something really amazing happens. The fight slows down. His terrifying lightning-fast patterns become readable, and what is widely considered one of gaming's most intimidating bosses becomes surprisingly manageable.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, the core lesson here really goes way beyond video games. Just remember that sometimes the absolute hardest obstacles in front of us don't actually require more force or more speed or endless grinding. Sometimes they just require a clever workaround, a quick change of perspective, or realizing you can just unplug your controller and plug it into port 2. So tell me, what impossible boss are you fighting the wrong way? Keep learning, keep adapting, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.